All right, I'm just gonna do a quick book review as I dropped the book called let's see. There we go. So, Unsettling Truths: The Ongoing Dehumanizing Legacy of the Doctrine of Discovery. And this is a fascinating book, and basically it's centered around this one legal case called Johnson versus McIntosh in 1823. And it's documenting that the Supreme Court used the doctrine of discovery to define what is sovereignty in the U.S. And the doctrine of discovery is a church legal claim from the 1500s. And it goes back to earlier, basically Platonic, the natural law of Plato, and Aristotle, where you have this hierarchy, and then with the Eusebius having the church become part of the Roman Empire under Constantine. And this book basically documents that Eusebius creating the New Testament for the Bible also essentially made Constantine the new Jesus. And then if an infidel was considered could be legally killed as under just war, was called just war. And this argument of just war is still used today, And so what's really fascinating is that even under the level of infidel is the level of savage as a subhuman. And it's even as late as 2005, this book documents that the Supreme Court was relying on this Johnson versus McIntosh doctrine of discovery to state that in this case the Oneida peoples did not have sovereignty over their land because based on the 1823 decision, if you are a savage whose quote subsistence was drawn chiefly from the forest, to leave them in possession of their country was to leave the country a wilderness. And so right here you have the legal precedence that to be a sovereign means to not be part of nature, to live not in subsistence from the forest. So in order to be a legal sovereign, you cannot be sustainable. You cannot live off, in the forest, as part of the forest. And so legally, the native indigenous peoples can only occupy their land, and they can't be sovereigns of their land. And now this is kind of interesting because even the legal definition of occupation itself comes under international building code regulation, which also includes this idea of development separate from nature. And so in order to occupy your land, or you have to be regulated by international building code in Western civilization, and so this again goes against subsistence living. So whereas the only way to get around that is to have a temporary shelter, like a temporary work shelter where you're not occupying the land, because you just are temporarily working the land. And so there's this very there's a very gray zone legally, how to live on the land without either occupying it, and you can't be a sovereign legally unless you're developing the land. You can't live in the wilderness. And this goes back to Platonic philosophy with Immanuel Kant, writing the essay The Sovereign Self. So the very definition of the self in the West is based on Platonic geometry. That was the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. And so what I've done to go around this is I have sold my land to a legal corporation, because a corporate personhood has more legal rights. A legal person as a corporation has more protection from the Bill of Rights than an actual wild living person that's dependent on nature and ecology. Because this is the insanity of our claim of quote-unquote civilization. And so, for example, the 14th Amendment has been applied much more to protect corporations than it has to protect the due process rights of African Americans, when the 14th Amendment was created to amend the Constitution that originally stated African Americans are only 3/5 of a person. But that most people don't realize that legally the 14th Amendment has been used to protect these legal persons, instead of African Americans. So this is why this book's fascinating, because it's pointing out that the law is quite amazingly ancient. There's a direct lineage from the Johnson versus McIntosh ruling, as this book documents, based on the Doctrine of Discovery, where the claim was by the Pope that the New World was empty land, and therefore it could be legally claimed as for sovereignty. And this book documents that even Abraham Lincoln was promoting this genocidal expansion of Western civilization, based on the progress of technology and developing the land and so this is my plan to try to navigate this very is if you have a temporary shelter as a work shelter, then you're not occupying the land as a dwelling. You're not living there as a dwelling. You're just working there, and the land will be owned. The sovereignty of the land will be maintained by a legal person, not a living individual. So it would all be legally removed from this whole problem of individuals trying to live off the land, live in nature, and then they get attacked by Western civilization in the past, from ever since Plato, based on genocide and through the church, using the church since Eusebius in the 312 AD was the Nicene Creed was established. So this book's arguing, it has promotionals from Wheaton College. I had a lot of graduates from my high school went to Wheaton College. So it's actually from a Christian perspective, but it's also written by an indigenous scholar. So it's a combination of a radical indigenous and radical Christian perspective that's challenging. Here's one from Calvin University. So I had a girlfriend who went there from my high school. So it's a fascinating book. I learned about it on YouTube, and I ordered it directly from the author on his website. It was published in 2019. So these are the authors right there. One of them's a Korean American, and the other guy is Dene American. So I don't know. They think that you can have some kind of reconciliation or something. I don't know. I think Mother Nature is gonna do that reconciliation for us with the ecological crisis that's accelerating. But this gives a lot of legal history of how, just how bad things are in the so-called legal system, which is really kind of, it's something you have to navigate. So I just submitted the selling of my land to my LLC. And it turns out, well, anyway, so that should be I should receive that back pretty soon. And, I don't agree with everything in this book, but it's still definitely a fascinating read. So I recommend Unsettling Truths. And what does sovereignty actually mean? Supposedly that's a good thing, but now I don't think so. Not in terms of Western civilization. It's very fascinating.